Hello and welcome to another episode of Parker's Previews powered by The Hammer. This is the show where we're going to take stats, advanced stats, data, and analytics and dive into some college football matchups this week to figure out ways that we can better consumers of college football content, and we can also be smarter investors when it comes to these matchups. So a little bit of a rough week last week, I won't lie. Over 3 there, maybe a bad beat on Kansas State and Iowa State. A punch out of the end zone there really got me, and then BYU kind of fell apart. But I am pretty happy with some picks this week. Think there's some good value, so ready to hop back on the horse and dive into a good matchup today. Want to make sure that you're following Parker's Previews on Twitter, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me at StatsAwar on Twitter, and make sure you know that if you want to get this in audio format, you can wherever you listen to your podcast. Just search Parker's Previews as well. Gonna go fast this week. Excited about this one from this week as I move around my screen. Sorry. You got to go get this one quick. I think it's going to correct pretty soon here. Looking at Iowa State plus 16, plus 15 and a half some places, but more than 2 touchdowns. Iowa State at Texas as an underdog. Iowa State is going to be my play as an underdog here. They are 0-3. All 3 of those games were 1-score losses. All 3 of those games happened in part, if not mostly in part, to some special teams snafus. I believe that Iowa State is a better team than their record indicates, even if they have some struggles on offense. And Texas, I think, is good and very, very high quality. They should win this game, but I do not believe that they are 16 points better than Iowa State. So absolutely go grab Iowa State as a road dog here. 39% of the bets are on Iowa State plus 15 and a half, but 53% of the money there. Looking at these 2 teams, Texas is 4-2 on the season. Iowa State 3-3 against the spread. Iowa State's 3-3. Texas is 5-1. They get the benefit of they covered against. They covered against Alabama there. That boosts them as well. Iowa State only averaging 23.17 points per game, but they are only allowing 13.67. Granted, they did play Iowa, so they got some help there in the averages. But generally, they're a very low-scoring team, very good defensive team. Texas, on the other hand, 38.3 points per game, 17.83 points allowed. So a little bit more points by Texas there. Excuse me. So you can get the 16 and a half a couple places at minus 110. You can get it 16. You can get it plus 15 and a half. I would take anything north of anything 15 or higher. I think is a good bet here. The first reason I think this is the total is 49 and a half, right? So that in itself, a 17 point differential with a total under 50 is going to make me lean towards the underdog. But I think if we break down some of these individual team tendencies and kind of their overall view, I think you'll agree with me that Iowa State is a pretty good play here. So I have this at about 15% win probability for Iowa State, 84 or 85% for Texas. But I'm projecting this to be within about 15 points. 27-13 is my kind of median score estimate here. Iowa State, for all their flaws, is 30th in EPA per play margin. And that should tell you how good their defense is, because EPA per play margin is weighted more heavily towards offense to reflect reality in the on field. So 30th overall compared to Texas is 25th overall. Their offense is 78th in EPA per play. Texas's defense is 68th in EPA per play. And the kind of best on best matchup here, Iowa State's defense is 7th in EPA. They're allowing negative 0.196 points per play. Whereas Texas is 21st, averaging positive 0.154 EPA per play. So that is one of the better unit matchups this week. I think that's, again, speaks to Iowa State as a dog, because you get all of this. You get Iowa State with the defense, kind of their best unit is going to slow down Texas's best unit. And so that'll leave a lot of the game to be decided by the more inferior units. And I think that Iowa State's going to be able to keep this close as a result. When Iowa State has the ball, they've been really bad against the rush. I think they're really missing Breece Hall here. He last year, he's playing for the Jets now, doing really great. I think that they do certainly have a little bit of a lower ceiling on offense. I know I talked about them last week I was picking against them and talk specifically about that third down, get out of third down card or get out of third down free card that they really just don't have. That I think is really hurting them on offense, and the ability or their inability to kind of get a consistent rushing floor has been very, very painful in their 3 losses, as they're averaging, 115th in EPA per rush, negative 0.117 EPA per rush. They're actually passing a lot. Some of that has to do with game script. Some of that has to do with they've had some injuries at running back and they can't really do much there. They are, they're 12th in rush rate over expected. That's 10.4 percentage points less than the average team. So they're really moving the ball aggressively. And Texas defense pretty balanced in terms of run pass. There's not really an obvious split to exploit there. 69th in EPA per pass, 59th in EPA per rush. One thing that Iowa State doesn't do well is generate quality possessions. You look at their touchdowns, a lot of those have been big play touchdowns from kind of outside the zone. We'll talk about Xavier. We will talk about Xavier Worthy. We'll also talk about Xavier Hutchinson for Iowa State here in a second, and his explosiveness. But Iowa State is 87th in quality possession rate, and Texas's defense is actually 56th in quality possession rate. So maybe an opportunity for Iowa State to get a couple more quality opportunities. They finished them relatively well. They're explosive, 41st in points per quality possession, but Texas stops people, kind of plays that bend don't break defense, 36th in points per quality possession. So Iowa State's going to have to generate a lot more quality possessions against Texas, move the ball in a sustained fashion, but they do have the ability to kind of break off an explosive play that should be encouraging. One thing that should help, Iowa State's field position has been pretty poor. 29.5 yard line is where they start. That's 69th in the nation. Texas's defense is really bad, 131st overall. They have allowed a lot of short fields. And one thing that I think can really improve from Iowa State, they're 95th in early downs EPA compared to Texas being 47th EPA on early downs. So Iowa State, I don't like their ability to move the ball early and often. I think they've gotten themselves in a hole with some mistakes with Hunter Deckers there, but they're a team that could, the way they've played, their big issues have been these big catastrophic plays. If they can avoid, a missed call on a snap and the ball going 15 yards and completely blowing out a third down opportunity, stuff like that, I think that they can get rid of some of those crazy negative plays and build up a little bit and be a little more consistent. So the opportunity is there. Looking at some of the personnel, Hunter Deckers, 67.4% completion. If you look at his kind of week to week, though, it's been fluctuating. Started out hot against SEMO, 80.6%, but then Iowa, 65%. Against Ohio, he was at 78, but then Baylor, 63.9, Kansas, 62.5, Kansas State, 57.9. His average depth of target has also come down, 7.1, 6.9, 5.6 in the last 3 games. So they're definitely bringing that offense a little bit closer. I think that's reflective of the fact that the offensive line has struggled a little bit and they haven't been able to get the ball to Xavier Worthy as much. So again, very obvious reasons why Iowa State is the underdog here. But I do think that they should have a pretty good time on the other side of the ball. The offense here should, can avoid those catastrophic plays. They really can be able to attack Texas and maybe score just enough to keep this within a reasonable amount. The other, got to talk about with them, Xavier Hutchinson, 87 targets. That's first on the team. He's averaging 10.6 yards per reception, 5 touchdowns. Pretty explosive, 5 yards after catch per reception. His average depth of target is 8.1, so he's getting the ball kind of an intermediate, and he's 2.84 yards per route run. So very productive when he's on the field, very involved. Kind of a guy. He'll be the huge, the big threat that Texas is going to have to devote a lot of resources to. But Jalen Noel, he's played a little bit out of the backfield. He's played a little bit out of the slot as well. Really versatile guy. He's 37 targets and 9.8 yards per reception. So he's a decent secondary option. It hurts that Iowa State doesn't have this tight end in the passing game. I think they're really missing that. But, if you can capitalize on Texas scrambling to defend Hutchinson and find Noel, that I think could be a recipe for success for Iowa State here. So I think I've spent too much time on the Iowa State offense because they are absolutely the poorer unit in this game. The more interesting side of this, and the reason that I think that this game is going to be a cover for Iowa State, has to do with the Texas offense versus the Iowa State defense. Iowa State's defense has been just very good for years under Matt Campbell. It's not exactly a novel system. He gets a little bit of credit for, inventing the tight front, but he by no means did that. But he is employing it at a college level really, really well with some non-traditional talent. They're 40th in success rate allowed, 19th in EPA per pass allowed, 11th in EPA per rush allowed. Texas, a little bit imbalanced, 23rd in EPA per pass, but only 47th in EPA per rush. And so they definitely have not been as explosive in the run game as you'd expect with Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson. The two of them together have just 20, just 20. It's still a lot. It's just not as much as you think for how much they run the ball. 20 runs of 10 plus yards, and both of them are averaging over 4 yards after contact. Bijan Robinson has 49 missed tackles forced. Roschon Johnson has 23. So there's potential for this rushing offense to kind of take off. But again, Iowa State plays the run really well, and they have a pretty solidly coached defensive team. They're 17th in quality possession rate, 6th in points per quality possession allowed. And I think what's really good is Texas has been able to capitalize on early downs pretty good. They're 7th in early downs EPA at 0.207 compared to Iowa State's defense being 25th, negative 0.11. So that certainly favors Iowa State getting Texas into negative scripts. And I think that Quinn Ewers and Texas's offense is at its best when they are kind of playing this this downfield game that is, hey, we're going to take a shot and we're going to hit it. We're moving the ball consistently here. You're going to move your safeties up and we're going to be able to hit you over top. They want that big shot play. As of yet, Xavier Worthy for Texas has not really done that consistently. 19 targets, more than 20 yards downfield, but only 5 receptions on those. If we go and look, though, we can say Hudson Card, the quarterback that's been playing in absence of Quinn Ewers, he is, 9 for 25 on balls 20 plus yards downfield. But if we look at Quinn Ewers is 5 for 12. So certainly not as many misses. Obviously the volume matters there, but Quinn Ewers should be able to get that deep threat a little bit more. I think they'll have trouble kind of finding the selection of that. And it'll be more of, can Quinn Ewers stay in the pocket and make multiple reads on third down to extend drives for Texas? That will be absolutely a challenge for them as well. And in those third down situations are going to favor Iowa State. Will McDonald, the pass rusher for Iowa State, is just an absolute freak of nature. I think this might be the first time on this show that I've gone out of my way to talk about a defensive player, because the individual defensive players, so much of that is hard to get the granularity in these matchups. But man, Will McDonald has 11 total pressures, 4 sacks. He's got 14 stops. Orion Vance is right there with him with 16 stops. And then of course, the linebacker Colby Reeder. Those two linebackers and Will McDonald, they've really got some solid guys up front there that I think should cause a lot of havoc and chaos for this Texas offense overall. Last but not least, I certainly want to talk about Xavier Worthy if I'm talking about Texas. Just an excellent guy. NFL guy, excellent receiver. He's leading a team with 34 targets, 15 yards per reception, and 5.4 yards after catch. Don't sleep on Jordan Whittington, though. Jordan Whittington only has 1.98 yards per route run. He's second on the team in targets, but he's averaging 13.6 yards when he does get a target. So that's pretty good. The other kind of secret weapon they think that'll really affect the Iowa State offense is the tight end Jatavion Sanders. He's a freshman, kind of came a little bit off the radar, obviously highly rated recruit. And so, as off the radar as a highly rated recruit can be, but he's got 5 touchdowns. He's got 25 receptions, 11.3 yards per reception. So pretty multiple here, probably the most multiple offense that Iowa State has seen all season. So again, you understand why Iowa State is the dog here. What we're arguing is that Iowa State as a dog is a good play because their defense historically has been really good. They've got the pass rush in Will McDonald to be disruptive, to kind of limit the explosive ceiling of this offense, to force Texas to convert on 3 straight downs. And I think that maybe a couple turnovers here as they're a little bit more aggressive in the back end of the secondary, you could see a very easy path to Iowa State keeping this game within reach. So if you can get this 15.5, 16.5, all the better. A pretty good pick here in the Big 12. I just don't believe that Texas is a true 17 or 16 point favorite over Iowa State. Some opportunity here to capitalize on a team that might be underrated because they've played 3 one-score games and lost. Thanks so much for listening to or watching this episode of Parker's Previews, powered by The Hammer. Follow me on Twitter at Stats of War. Follow Parker's Previews on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get podcasts wherever you listen to them. We'll be back with another play tomorrow. Catch you later.